Good Shabbos. Who steals the afikomen in your home? It's a custom in many Jewish communities to actually steal the afikomen. That is, the part of the matzah that is put aside towards the end of the Seder. One of the youngsters can go along and try to steal it and then negotiate to give it back for a prize. Others have it a little simpler, where it's more a game of hide and seek. You hide the afikomen, one of the children find it, and all the children are given presents. In Chabad, we don't have the custom of stealing the afikomen because we don't want to train our children to steal. But this actually originates in the Gemara. The Talmud says, "Choitvin matzah kedei," we grab matzahs in order to keep the children awake. We're playing a game that is engaging to the children, and it keeps them involved in the Seder. But why this game? We could have created all kinds of games. As a matter of fact, there are a number of things that we do to keep the children invested and thinking about the Seder. Why this one? What does it tell us? Now, there's a great question that we could ask. When Hashem reveals himself to Moshe Rabbeinu, he says to him, "Go, and you're going to redeem the Jewish people out of Egypt. I've seen the suffering that the Jewish people are going through in Egypt, and I am sending you to be my messenger to take them out of Egypt. And after they go out of Egypt, there's a purpose here. They're going to get the Torah, and I'm going to take them to a land flowing in milk and honey, the land that I promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." So there's a whole goal. Going out of Egypt, you're going to become a people, you get the law, the Torah, by which to live, and you will settle the Holy Land. But then Hashem says to Moshe, "Go and tell Pharaoh that we want a 3-day holiday." Doesn't tell Pharaoh that we want to leave Egypt. He tells Pharaoh that we're only going for 3 days. And this is a consistent statement by Moshe to Pharaoh throughout the time that he's coming and back and forth to Pharaoh, "Please let my people go." So Pharaoh says, "We'll let the men, no one else." Then we say, "Okay, we will let the children, but not the animals." And he says, "No, everything has to go." Well, you're thinking you got the hint, but the question is obviously, why lie to Pharaoh? Why can't you tell him the truth? It's not anybody else but Hashem himself talking to him. Hashem through Moshe is saying to Pharaoh, and showing his strength. I can get the Jews out of Egypt. And Hashem doesn't need to smuggle it in to kind of lie and cheat in order to get it out. Hashem can tell you the truth. As a matter of fact, the seal of Hashem is truth. Hashem is all about truth. Torah emes, Moshe emes, Shem emes. So why is it that he kind of is fooling Pharaoh? He didn't lie. He didn't say we're coming back. He says we're going for 3 days on a holiday, on a furlough. Pharaoh thought, okay, they can't service God here in Egypt, too much idolatry. They're going to leave Egypt, and in the desert, in a quiet space, that's where they're serving. Okay. But then they were going to come back. Well, that's what he thought. That's what they led him to believe. Why the smoke screen? So the 3 answers. First 2 are as follows. First answer is given is very practical. The practical reason given is that in order to get Pharaoh to chase them after leaving Egypt, you had to tell him you're coming back, or you had to make him assume you're coming back. So he sent people with the Jews, and after 3 days, the guys come back and they say, "Hey, they ain't coming back." So Pharaoh says, "What? They fooled me. They lied to me. They said it's 3 days, and now they're going." He went and he chased them, He therefore was swallowed up by the sea. And that was a necessary measure for him, drowning the Jewish children in the sea that were born. Right in the beginning of the story, he tells his people every newborn child should be thrown into the sea. So that's why he had to drown in the sea as well. So that's the first answer given by the Drush Sharan, by the Medrash, and so on. The second answer given by the Alshich HaKadosh is that there is a certain message here that we want that Pharaoh should understand, or it should be at his level. In other words, if you go to the king and say, you got to let 600,000 workers out free, no more, after having them for 80 some odd years. It's a hard thing for someone to get his mind around. You ask him for 3-day holiday, it's one thing. You're asking him for them to leave completely. That's really it's actually makes sense that he would say no. And so Hashem wanted to kind of test Pharaoh in a sense, or say, look, I'm only asking for a little bit. And if he still said no, then he was worthy of all the plagues and worthy of everything else that happened to him. But it also gives us a message. Hashem doesn't ask more than we're capable of doing. You could imagine, you could understand that it wasn't capable. Pharaoh wouldn't be capable to fully release 600,000 Jews. Hashem wanted that he should, so to speak, have an opportunity of tshuva. And for that, he couldn't think that he's letting them go for good. You do it a little at a time, first 3 days, and then you see what happens from there. So that's the answer of the Alshich. There's the deeper answer, and that is that of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe in chapter 31 of Tanya. He turns it. You see, in addition to telling Pharaoh we're only going to be the 3 days, we also find that we, the Jewish people, had to go out in haste. We ran away from Egypt. Ki barach ha'am. There's a whole emphasis that we ran, ki b'chipazon, with haste, that we went out quickly out of Egypt. As a matter of fact, what do we remember out of going out of Egypt? That we went out with such haste that there was no time for the dough to rise. The fact that we eat matzah is all about this, that we didn't have time for the dough to rise because we were so hasty in going out of Egypt. It had to be done right away. There was no time. So this idea of haste is so significant that according to the Rambam and many of the Sfardim begin the Haggadah, with haste we ran out of Egypt. And when the Jewish people in Egypt, before they left, they had the Seder, they had the Paschal lamb, they had the matzah, but the Torah clearly tells us how they're meant to eat it. They have to have their belt on, their shoes on, their staff next to them, all ready. It's like a thief prior to escaping, taking his last sandwich, but he's fully clothed and when you're running out of your house and you're all dressed and ready to go and you might be hungry and grab something, a bite to eat. That's how he left. That's how the Seder was in Egypt. It wasn't like settle, free, kick off your shoes, unbuckle your belt, take off your outer garments, loosen your tie, or take it off completely, and have a Seder like we have now. No. There was a rush and a haste. And we remember that haste. We remember the matzah. There are those who have customs of eating at the Seder in that kind of stance, with the stance of being ready to pounce and run out, so to speak. So why is that? Because when you're kind of cheating, in a sense, I'm going for 3 days, you have to go in haste, because who knows, they might change their mind. If you were going free, we crushed Egypt, the 10 plagues totally destroyed them, and now we're going like free people, and we're going peacefully and slowly, as if we have all the time in the world. But we didn't do that. We kind of ran away in haste, and therefore we had to kind of steal our way out. But the question then is, why was that? Because there's a very powerful message here. The Jews in Egypt were not ready to leave. The Jews in Egypt, spiritually, were also idol worshippers. The angels complained to God at the Red Sea. These are idol worshippers and these are idol worshippers. Why are you saving these and drowning the others? So what happens to anyone when you feel unworthy, when you feel you're not there yet? Torah is giving us a very powerful, important lesson. If you feel you're on there, grab something, do it, run away. Just run away out of the negativity of Egypt, run out. And once you're out, you'll see what will happen. 3 days will turn into 6 days. It's turned into 3,335 years. That's what it's turned into, those 3 days. Just Get out a little bit. And this is a lesson for each of every one of us in our own lives. Sometimes we see the vast task that is upon us, the vastness of what is expected of us in our Yiddishkeit, in Torah mitzvahs. And we think, I can't get out of my Egypt. I have my habits, I have my constriction, I have my interests that I know are not wholesome, I know are not fully consistent with Judaism, but that's just who I am, and I can't get out of that. So the message of the Exodus of Egypt in a hasty way tells us, listen, just run away, which means just leave that situation for one day. Don't think you're doing it every day. Just do it once. Come to a shir. I can't go to learn every day. Okay, don't just come once. Go to a minyan. Can't wake up early. Just come once. Go do a kind deed. You can't give tzedakah to the. Just give it now. Just give a little bit now. Just one time, and you'll see that little bit will grow. Maybe not fully, but a little bit. This is what the Alter Rebbe teaches, because we have the inner personality, what's called our intellect and our emotion, might not be that of what we call our godly soul itself. We have animalistic instincts. But you know what? Just in the area of thought or speech or action, do something to run away. Even though normally being impetuous is not considered a positive thing. We generally want to be considered. A scholar, a righteous person is considered in his reactions. But here we need a certain haste and impetuousness in a positive way. We call it alacrity, to get away from things that are holding us back. A present minister in the government in Israel, Yuli Edelstein, who was, last number of years, he was the Knesset speaker as well. He is an Asir Tzion. He was a refusnik. He spent time in the Soviet prison in the 1980s. In 1984, there was a trial. He was on trial. And the way the Soviets would organize these trials was that the balcony and all the people in the courtroom were police officers and so on, members of the government. There was no room for journalists or anyone of that nature. There was simply no room. You could come, but there's no room. It's full. Obviously, it's full. His wife and his mother were able to get in, and his sentence they gave him for trumped up charges were 3 years harsh labor in Siberia. As they're taking him away, he's able to turn and sees his wife from the distance, and he screams out to her, "How many candles tonight?" And she shows him 2 fingers. It was Hanukkah. And he wanted to know what night of Hanukkah it was. When he came back to his cell, he had no candles. But somehow or another, he got a hold of a pack of matches. And as it became night, he lit 2 matches. And he held these 2 matches until they burned to the edge of his finger. Why would he do this? He wanted to do somewhat of the mitzvah. He couldn't do the mitzvah fully. But he wanted to light the candle because he knew a little light chases away much darkness. He lit that candle. And that chased away the darkness of communism, ultimately forever, at least in Russia. That's what we have to do on Pesach. Pesach tells us the message. A little light chases away a lot of darkness. It tells us just hastily get out from underneath the imprisonment of the Pharaoh, whatever that means in your life, the constriction of Egypt, and just run away to do some positive thing, even sitting by the Seder and doing it according to halacha, doing it according to Jewish law. Go out of your comfort zone. Maybe invite somebody who otherwise doesn't have a Seder. Bring him to your home. Send them to us in the show. We'd love to have them. so that another Jew can run out of their own darkness. Shabbos and happy Pesach.